Welcome to the Simply Authentic podcast with Angie and Tanya, where we will enlighten you with our real estate knowledge, highlight entrepreneurship, and have conversations about your passions, goals, and your struggles.
Welcome to the Simply Authentic podcast. I'm Angie Mullings.
And I'm Tanya Murfin.
We're very excited to be coming to you on location today. We're at 4x4 in Fremont Hills.
Yes, we are. We have Derek with us, who is one of the owners of 4x4. And we appreciate Gershman getting in the car and coming on the road show today to set up for us. So we're super excited to be here, Derek.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming. Yes, absolutely. So as we get started, I want to give you a congratulations to begin with. What an amazing place you have.
Appreciate that a lot.
Yes.
Very interesting and fun. Going.
Yes. I'm excited to tell the listeners and for you to tell the listeners how you guys got started. So give us the background of how 4x4 came to be.
Okay. So 4x4 is 4 husbands and 4 wives. So we
Okay.
are 4 couples that were friends who traveled together, barbecued together. One fortunately made beer in his garage that we enjoyed drinking of.
Yeah.
And kind of just over time morphed into this idea that this could be a fun second job / hobby. With some travels to Nashville, some other cities, Northwest Arkansas, as well as St. Louis, Kansas City. We really decided that we could viably put a small microbrewery, neighborhood taproom together and just enjoy it.
Okay.
And we did.
Yes.
Yeah. So you started with that neighborhood taproom concept in Galloway.
Absolutely.
So while you were getting that started, did you hold another job? How did that all take place? What did that look like? Did everybody have their own little job to do within the organization?
Yeah, I think so. Initially, out of the gate, everyone had their jobs. Yeah, we maintained our day jobs, worked evenings, weekends, especially with the group of us. We were able to kind of mix and match. It was very small in the beginning anyway, and we could manage that. I think fairly quickly we realized that our head brewer, Chris, needed to go full-time. Just for the time demands and family life. He went full-time, and then quickly behind that, my wife went full-time. So we had kind of what I call front of house, back of house. We had the beer being made, developed recipes, and then my wife was doing a lot of the front of house, starting to bring on employees, operations. Those are the only 2 that have full-time jobs still to this day here. And then the rest of us have maintained our full-time jobs during the day and still change in the evening and
Elsewhere.
weekends. Yes.
Yeah.
And you started in Galloway.
We
So
did.
that was your first location. So give me the timeline from when you're brewing in the basement and you're traveling. How long did the experience take before you chose where you were going to open that first microbrewery?
Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting story too. We were at the time actually looking in Nixa
Okay.
to open our very first one.
Okay.
There wasn't anything that just location-wise really worked, but we knew we wanted something smaller, more intimate, that had a connection with a neighborhood of some sort. Finding Sequiota and the park and the trail
Yes.
just tied hand in hand with the culture and the beer and the people. So we got an opportunity to grab a small building there. And so from the time of what I would call the crazy idea of, yeah, sure, let's do it. Wait, how do we do this?
Right.
To actually developing the business plan, taking down the lease, getting equipment purchased, took us just shy of a year and a half to open the doors.
Okay.
Right. So anybody who likes craft beer and has traveled to other parts of the country, and I know that's where you got some of your ideas from, that neighborhood concept is very popular, like in Colorado, for instance.
Yeah.
But it was new here. I mean, at the time you started, there were only maybe 1 or 2 other breweries in town.
Yeah,
craft
so
brewers?
you're exactly right. I think Springfield had a good foundation of what I call craft brewery, somewhat state or regional distribution based. Mother, Springfield Brew Co., White River Brewing had their own niches, and obviously all had tap rooms, but in a different facet. Larger scale production, things like that. We felt like there was that opportunity to have the small traffic only in person, minimal to no distribution, which is selling out to the bars and restaurants or retail stores.
Got it.
Which that's obviously changed.
Got it, yeah.
The neighborhood concept is exactly what you said. In fact, we saw it in Denver, Boulder a lot. That's where I'm actually from originally.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we felt like it was needed. Now, ironically, when we came up with the idea, another couple came up with the same idea, and us and Ty and Timber basically opened in conjunction within a few months of each other.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's where you've seen the craft beer industry move into Springfield is multiple. I mean, I think we have 10 now, 10 or 11. And we were number 5 in 2017.
Okay. Awesome. And so what is that relationship like in town? When you have this idea and you start your research and you're traveling around with your friends and you're doing the research by going and drinking beer and
It's really
seeing
hard.
and seeing
It's a tough
these
job.
different taverns.
Yeah.
What did that look like with your fellow brewers in Springfield area? And what's that like today?
It's always been really good. I think craft beer is a very unique industry and culture.
Yeah.
Everyone, for the most part, is open door. We could ask really any question. Springfield Brewing Company was a huge help with Chris on the brewing side, reaching out to Jeff at Mother's. Even at the time, the owner of White River at the time, he was extremely helpful. And then even us and Ty and Timber having conversations as we were developing and trying to open together, even there was support and bounce off ideas, and also allowed us to differentiate and provide 2 different experiences and not open the same thing.
Right.
So it was good then. I would say it's better now, even because as we've got to 10, 11, at one point I think 12, we developed a Springfield Craft Beer Collective. And so all of us owners or representatives of the breweries get together. We meet monthly. We do events together.
Nice.
So we've just become even closer, truly somewhat friends of other breweries and other brewery owners.
Yeah. And you talk about the experience. I think for our listeners out there that maybe have not experienced a craft brewery, a small microbrew, it's almost like you see a lot of people on laptops. You see a lot of people come here and do some work. You
see a lot of families.
Talk about that experience and what that's like.
Yeah, I think that was something we as having children enjoyed about going and wanted to continue to drive and bring that here. I think there's 2 misconceptions. One, that either craft breweries were really pretentious or like even confused, like when you had to learn how to order at Starbucks, right? It felt like the same way here.
Right. Yeah.
That's something we wanted to eliminate, be very approachable, be very understanding, have a lot of options. But secondly, make it family friendly. It's the biggest thing that we have to get people to understand is we're not a bar.
Right.
We're not shooting shots. We're not staying open late. We're not, not doing mixed drinks, anything like that. It is handcrafted, approachable beers meant to have a couple, hang out with friends and family, work meetings, social gatherings, and then you go home or go get dinner or whatever.
Right.
So making sure that we could drive that concept to people, I guess to the public in general, to know that this isn't just come get drunk.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, we don't have that crowd, right? And I think all the other breweries would say the same.
Yeah.
But it's messaging. It's just getting that across to people.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, being a Fremont Hills resident, you just talking about what the perception sometimes is of, oh, it's a bar. It says brewery, it's a bar. So, tell us about how the Fremont Hills location came to be and what kind of hurdles you crossed during that presentation, so to speak, of, hey, we want to come here.
So the first thing I would say, we quickly realized through and post-COVID that we were in a position at our Galloway location. We either had to really expand, our demand was there, the volume was there, but the location was inefficient and it was tight and it was almost to a point kind of dangerous, right? Because we're really tight quarters.
Sure.
So we realized we either need to go all in and find a location, build a location, scale up, or we need to pull way back. Right. Well, none of us we're all kind of
Let's
go-getters.
do this.
Yeah. As soon as we asked that question, we all kind of looked at each other like, we know the answer. So we dove in. We knew also that I think we've always pushed the boundaries of the first brewery didn't have to be downtown.
Right.
It could be
That's
south.
true. Yeah.
We pushed it again, said, hey, why not Christian County, Fremont Hills, Ozark, Nixa?
Right.
So we started researching again in this corridor of those 3 cities. Fremont Hills kind of felt perfect in the sense of high traffic road, great visibility, connection of both Nixa and Ozark, and really tying the communities as one, and not just alienating one or the other. So we were very fortunate to get this location. Building ground up took some time. obviously having to get approved through the city of Fremont Hills.
Right.
Overall was fantastic. The city was great to work with.
Good.
I'd say 99% of the population was fine.
Yeah.
There were definitely concerns. I don't blame them.
Sure.
We're near a few homes.
Yep.
And so we tried to message, again, what we just talked about. We're different. You're not having a bar open in your backyard. We're not going to be playing music till midnight or 1. We're not going to have drunk people stumbling off and whatnot. So we had to message that. And then secondly, we really, really wanted to bring the same culture and fit to as Fremont Hills has and or better. And so we wanted to make sure they understood that we'll spend the money to give them an appearance in a venue that they're proud of and that fits their city. And so we had to stay with that. Obviously, there was some challenges on our end saying, why do we need to pay this much for this or that?
Right.
But it was important that they accepted us and they're happy and proud to be coming here and that we are in their backyard per se.
Absolutely. And as a resident, I can say in the beginning, there was objections, as there always are, to anything changing.
Yeah.
But now you guys are busy all the time. And I know it's not just the residents of Fremont Hills, but what I hear residents saying is, oh my gosh, we can't believe the reception that Christian County alone is having with this place. We love it, and it's so cool. And you brought the cool factor down
Thanks,
here.
we tried.
Yeah.
I think it was it's an underserved market.
Yeah.
I think you have the population and the growth down here. You've got the demographic, and you've got the home building. You've got all the still say the real estate booms down here.
Right.
And we have a brewery in Springfield, so it's not to say bad about Springfield, but I felt like everyone around here had to go to Springfield to get this environment. Why not here?
Right.
Really, it was kind of our thought.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the different concepts, because again, it is different at Galloway than it is down here. The other thing I want to bring up is the food, not dilemma, but you're not I want our listeners to understand you don't come here and you're not serving meals, that kind of thing. So it's different from Springfield Brewing Company in that regard. You give options. So talk a little bit about those different cultures.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is one thing that was also hard to get people's minds and to understand is we're not a restaurant. We make beer, which is hard enough to do on its own. And we want to be able to turn out new stuff. So therefore we chose not to do food, labor, waste, material, all the other reasons, right? We provide food trucks at the Fremont location, 1 every day, 2 on the weekends, rotating. We've got a calendar schedule. It's been working out wonderfully.
I love it.
Gives people options,
Yeah.
keeps it off our hands.
Right.
So that's been a win. Springfield Brewing Company is a brew pub. They kill it at that, right?
Yeah.
They got a great restaurant, great venue,
They do.
great beer. That's what they're good at. We just want to be good at beer.
Yeah.
And providing an atmosphere that's comfortable.
Well, and by inviting different food trucks to come in, you're helping other local entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah, that's been one thing that I think we've always strived to do. We work with a lot of charities consistently with our game nights. We try to partner with as many of the local food trucks, like you said. We even try to partner with a lot of local businesses. So vendor fair, in fact, I think we have a flower truck coming soon.
Great.
Just to partner up and get as much small business, local traffic as we can.
Yeah.
Because we do have a venue now that drives traffic. And so if that foot count can help
You're right.
people, then why not leverage that for both?
Absolutely.
Right.
So earlier you mentioned COVID, and because I live near here, I've watched this be erected from the beginning.
For a long time.
Yeah, for a minute.
Yeah.
So tell us what building this was like during COVID for you.
I'll take a quick drink.
Yeah, take a drink on that one.
No, I'm just kidding. It was good. It was a challenge. I think everyone saw home building, lumber prices, commercial building, kind of just went chaotic. Supply chain was insane. Getting materials and products were hard. The hardest part was prices fluctuating. There was no, here's your quote, here's your bid. It was good for 24 hours or whatever, right? I'm not actually exaggerating. Some of the products were that. So the hardest part was just nailing down when can we get something, even though we've signed a contract on it. And then if it gets here, do we have labor to put it in or on or whatever? So those scheduling was a lot of work by our general contractor. Stinson Building did all of that. It was done to the best of the abilities.
Sure.
Right. Again, you order something, it could be 3 months before it shows
Sure.
up.
Yeah.
So the prices ran higher than the original bids. There's no denying that. That was a challenge, but we got to do it our way and the way we wanted it, and we tried not to sacrifice as much at all because we had a vision, we had a concept, and we wanted to stay true to it. So there were very few concessions made. We just had to get creative in the ones we did make.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And during that COVID, everybody had to learn how to do business differently,
For sure.
right? During COVID. So I know when we had talked earlier, you said something about your distribution being one thing and you had to kind of punt and go a different direction. Talk a little bit about the decisions that had to be made there because
Yep.
things were different.
Yep. So that ties back to a little bit what we were talking about earlier. We were a taproom, people-driven focus. We started some keg distribution, which is supplying some bars and restaurants with our products for their taps. Then we got into a little bit of canning, but really said we never wanted to do canning, and then COVID hit. The only way to have revenue and to do anything was to get it on a shelf because those were still open. Excuse me. So it forced our hand a little bit to say, okay, we're willing to can. We're willing to go through that. So we did quick investment, quick changes, got canning really quick, got it on the shelves. What I shouldn't say we didn't think about it. We did, but I think what surprised us is when COVID was laxed and everything was coming back,
Right.
well, you had this whole new stream of business and revenue
Yeah.
and demand that didn't go away. Everything else just came back.
Right.
And that's when we really realized, wait, this Galloway location is not going to suffice.
Got it.
Right. And so we quickly got into this for that reason. So yeah, it brought us out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
It grew our demand quickly, which comes with a lot of challenges.
I'm sure.
How quick can you turn the beer? How consistent can that beer be? Inventory management, getting the right pricing, not wasting. I mean, so many variables got thrown at us so quickly that we just had to really kind of, I say, check and adjust constantly and make sure we were doing the right things. But it hindsight opened us up to be the brewery that we needed to be or we should have been. We were just kind of fighting against, I think, early on,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it
Sometimes
does.
those changes are forced. We
Yeah.
think we need to take them, but it takes something like COVID or whatever to make us really push forward. And
Yeah, and I was, obviously, I hate saying this line because COVID was terrible in many, many reasons and ways, but I will say strictly from the business focus, COVID probably was a good thing, hindsight, to force us to think differently.
Yeah.
And I think
Think
a lot
out
of
of the
businesses
box.
probably say that.
absolutely.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
So if you have canned beer now, where are you sending that? Are you sending it out of our area?
So good question. Trying to right now.
Yeah.
That's our heavy focus.
Yeah.
Been working on that all day today. So right now we're Springfield Branson Market,
Okay.
partnered with Will Fisher Distributing here in town.
Awesome.
So they do all of our distribution and marketing to what's called on and off premise, so bars and restaurants or retail stores. We are working with another distributor to cover Lake of the Ozarks and Joplin, and then two others to potentially do the southern part of the state and kind of that western up to I-70 corridor.
Okay.
So incrementally trying to add pockets
Yeah.
of the state. The goal is to eventually become statewide distributing,
Okay.
but it has to
Love
be
that.
done methodically and scaled out
Sure.
so we don't fail in a
Absolutely.
sense. But
Right.
that is a big focus right now, is trying to get those pockets going now.
Okay.
So I have a question, kind of a gut check question. So COVID hits and you start thinking in a way that you said you would never think. What is the first thing that 4x4 does when you get a gut check like a pandemic and suddenly something's brought to you and you have to now think outside of the box and go a different direction? Do the four couples call a meeting? What do you do immediately?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, definitely. We do communicate often between all of us. I would say 4 to 5 of us are really, really hands-on daily. And then anything big, we make sure all 4 couples are on board, agree, worded right, thought right, whatever. That time especially, we made a lot of, again, local connections. We partner with a ton of restaurants and brands and things to do joint like beer and their products as a package deal for the
Love
drive
that.
up. So we started doing
Yeah.
that. Then the investment was agreed upon by all 8. It was like, hey, we need a label machine. We need better canning materials.
Got it.
That's going to cost X. Everybody good with this?
Right.
Because I know
Yeah.
3 months ago we
We're
said we'd
spend
never
money.
do this.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, overall, I mean, 90% of the time it's here's what we want to do and why. Cool,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've been fortunate that the biggest question we always get is, are you all still friends?
Yeah. Do you like one another?
Yeah, and that's, I guess, 6 years really now later, we are. I mean, it's really worked out. We've been fortunate. We all understand, although it took time, kind of where our lane is, what's
Yes.
our role.
Yeah.
And that was hard, year 1 and 2.
For
We
sure.
overstepped each other constantly.
Yes.
And we've really kind of ironed out our lanes, and that's helped tremendously as well.
I think from my background of having different partners, you do have to establish that. You have to get in a rhythm and throw it all in and say, we're doing this, and then figure out who's good at what, because everybody has a strength.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't know that if you've just been friends. You know, he does that and she does this, but I'm sure that it took you the time to figure that out, so you aren't pissing somebody off and
Yeah.
stepping on their toes and yeah,
Yeah, and it's different now. We're at the size and level. There's a lot more risk now, right?
absolutely.
I mean, every one of us has to respect each other in the fact that there's a lot on the line.
Yes.
We all got homes, all those things.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
there has to be a level of communication and respect when you make a big
sure.
decision at this level, especially now.
For sure.
Yeah. So what's next? Do you have any specific plans? You talked about modeling and distribution, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, not to be cliche, next is not doing anything to an extent right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I think we've grown so much so often in 5 years, almost 6 years now, that I think we need to get really good at what we do again.
Yeah.
And I mean focusing on attention to details, consistencies in beers, service levels. But yes, the next big step is trying to incrementally get to that state distribution platform. That's really the business focus right now, is getting signed on with these distributors, executing these markets, getting that growth, and then making sure, I guess secondly, I guess we are doing something. We're changing Galloway, rebranding it.
Okay.
We have 2 breweries 10 minutes apart, right? So we don't want
Right.
to cannibalize and take away from Galloway
Right.
to our best of our abilities. And it really hasn't, but we are going to rebrand that to the Unhinged Project at 4x4,
Okay.
which is going to be a ton of fun. So it's weird one-off beers, crazy sours, IPAs, a lot of barrel aging programs, stuff that you don't necessarily see all the time in the area.
Okay.
And that we aren't doing here even. So it gives you a reason to go there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done our first couple beers there and a few barrel aged, and we've really just now started pumping those into production really in the last couple of weeks. You'll see a little bit of a paint changeover, some branding. You already see stuff trickle in with glassware, shirts, things like that. So that'll be kind of the next big launch of like, here's our barrel program,
Yeah.
here's our cool food or beers at Unhinged Project
Right. Yeah.
with
Right.
crazy ingredients.
Yeah.
So I guess we are doing stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
are.
are. You're doing stuff.
You have to, right?
You
If
do.
you're a business, you're an entrepreneur, it's always moving forward. You've always got to be thinking about the next thing. But I loved a couple of things that you said there that I really want to kind of dive into just a little bit. First of all, you started small. There's a lot of businesses, people in our business in real estate, a lot of times they get in and they think, I've got to spend all this money on promotion and marketing, and they dive in, but they dive in by spending just a ton of money. And you guys went into a small location, a location, like you said, that wasn't downtown, that wasn't tried and true. And I think that's important for our listeners to hear that, you don't have to spend a ton of money. I mean, you spent money, but it's enough. But I'm just saying, you don't have to go real big to get a great product, a great environment, all those things.
I agree. That was definitely a focus, is making it more organic and intimate, that people connection first. Consistency with the brand on social medias or other platforms and merchandise, things like that, but not so much. In fact, to this day, we still haven't paid for advertising,
That's
That's awesome.
which I'm sure some companies in town hate. Sorry.
Hey,
But
that's a win.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the demand is there, the brand loyalty is growing, and we can still do better at that. And then that's not to say we're not going to. Obviously, as
Sure.
this continues to grow, that's probably
Yeah.
a step we get to. But we wanted to prove concepts and prove the demand and prove the product quality. Because if it didn't work, we didn't want to lose everything.
Right.
Right. And so we want to go in that was affordable and easy enough to be like, okay, maybe we don't love this, or maybe this was a bad idea. We could have pulled off or
Right.
got out of it or whatever. And that obviously wasn't the case. We loved it and
Yeah.
we're running forward. But
Right.
it's scary enough to do this 5-6 years later. I can't imagine going in like this day one
Yeah.
and not knowing
No.
anything.
Agree.
Yeah. The second thing that you mentioned there was I'm trying to remember exactly how you put it. I won't. I'll just paraphrase. But you said we want to do what we do right,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not trying to take on a lot of different projects. We want to be really good at what we do. A lot of people think diversification is I've got to try this and I've got to try this and I've got to try this, and they're constantly trying. And from a marketing perspective, I think that's really rough on your consumer because they can't keep up with what you're doing. So
I think our industry already leads to that, to be honest, because if I look at our business, it's really 3 separate businesses already. And so why add more to it? One, we've got to be a service-oriented, atmosphere-driven, attention to detail, clean, all those things, right? So the guest experience is there. You got to make a product. So you kind of have that recipe development, inventory management, consistency, all those things go into that. And then third is we're going to sell it out to the market. So we're kind of a sales organization trying to go to bars and restaurants, to retail stores. So we already, in my head it's already a busy concept with really 3 different businesses in one. Adding food or adding any other layer to that is just kind of daunting.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems
Absolutely.
to tie back. So yeah, we need to get really good at those 3. And we're good in many of those aspects, but I don't think we're perfect in all 3. And until we can really hone those in, there's no point in tackling more.
yeah.
Because you're right. My wife does all marketing, social media, and I think we throw enough
She's
at her
doing
already.
She's doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because if I want to know what's going on, I'm on Instagram or Facebook looking it up.
And I don't know what any of those mean. So, she does
You're on
great.
there.
Yeah, I am
She
on
does a
there,
great
but
job.
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah. And you newsletters. You have newsletters too. I
Yep.
get the monthly newsletters, so that's great.
So the Fremont Hills location, tell us about this. So if somebody has never been here before, as they're listening, they're going to visualize how you're going to describe it and what kind of atmosphere and culture and feeling you created here and all the things there are to do here.
Yeah, so we try to kind of bring a little bit for everybody. We've got a really nice, smaller, intimate, what we call the barley room, which is where we're at today.
Right.
Great for private events, family events, reservations, business meetings. Excuse me. Or if it's just open on the weekend, it's just quieter and more comfortable, right? We've got our main big bar area. It's kind of bright, modern, shiny, lights, signs, TVs, catch a game, whatever you want to do there. It can be a little bit louder, maybe music in there. Or you got your outdoor space. So we've got fully uncovered outdoor, so AstroTurf, really clean, outdoor stage, putting green, cornhole, soon to be more outdoor games, bocce ball, things like that. And then a full covered patio, which can also be closed in the winter.
Yeah.
So you've got that covered aspect. It's still comfortable. You can enjoy it even in the weather. Also able to reserve. So we really have a clean, modern, somewhat simplistic feel. But you can find your area of the brewery that fits you best or is most comfortable. But the interactive board games, coloring books for kids, card games, outdoor games, all of that is meant to just provide an atmosphere for the whole family.
Yeah.
But with your kids.
Yes.
There you go.
With your kids.
Yeah, you're going to see some
Supervision.
posts and letters here soon in about 2 hours. We struggle a little bit with kids.
Sure.
And every brewery does.
Yeah.
We've all discussed it.
Yeah.
It is family friendly. it's not a park.
Right.
So we're all working to figure out how to communicate that, how to manage that, not be rude, not police, but it needs to be comfortable for everybody.
It does.
And so we're all actively working. I think every brewery.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I'll be watching because that is, coming here without my grandchildren, or one of them is 2.5. So she loves this place. She calls it 44.
Perfect.
And every time we go by, 44, Mimi, 44. So she tells me she wants to come here.
Yeah.
So for a 2.5-year-old to say they want to come to 44, it's because of the environment.
Right.
And that she knows she can play in the outdoor area. And so I have to watch her and keep eyes on her so that she's not running amok. But not every parent does that.
Right.
So
Yeah, we're all working on that.
yeah.
I mean,
And it'll probably
It'll
be an
always be a
ongoing,
challenge.
ongoing challenge.
we absolutely don't. It's never going to be perfect. But
No.
we just need to make it comfortable for everyone.
Yes.
And I guess the point of that message is that we obviously intently always focus on the atmosphere and
sure.
the experience.
Yeah.
And that's still our focus.
Yeah. And you have live music, you have beer and yoga. Tell us
We do.
about some of those
Forgot about all
things.
that. So we do yoga on Saturdays here at Fremont, Sundays at Galloway.
Okay.
We do live music here Friday at Fremont, Saturdays at Galloway, and then some mixed in here and there.
Okay.
We do bingo, we do trivia, we do cornhole tournaments, we do a lot of things.
love
Bunko.
Bunko.
Yeah, that
Okay.
started
Haven't seen
recently.
that. Okay.
It's been done. It's over at Galloway, but it's going over really well.
Okay.
Wow.
So I think we just had one last night.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was here one night recently on bingo night, and I was sitting outside, but the indoor area filled up. You had people even over here where they couldn't even see the bingo callers
Yep.
playing bingo.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We get at both locations get huge turnouts for bingo.
yeah,
It's awesome.
Yeah.
that is
Pretty
so
fun.
awesome.
And trivia, honestly, trivia does really well too.
Awesome.
And did you say that you give back some of your profits
Yeah.
from that?
So every month there's a charity tied to the game nights.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah, it rotates. I think Lost and Found is this month. But yeah, we rotate every month, and there's beer sales and tip donations and giveaways, things like that, that are all tied to the charity of that
I love
month.
that.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, my beer loving friends out there would hate me if I didn't ask this question. So,
Yeah.
how do you decide what beers to make, what to keep on tap? Who makes that decision? Is it all of you? Do you sit around and have big tasting night? What's that look like?
Yeah, it's a little. It's a hard answer.
Sorry.
No, it's
into
a
that.
great question. I'd say it's a few things. It's what is trending, right? What do you see on Instagram or in your travels, East Coast, West Coast, Denver, whatever it is? There's a little bit of that. As we all know, sometimes we're 3 to 5 years late to everything that comes
For
from
sure.
the coast in.
Yeah.
Secondly, it is really what stays on is driven by numbers, ultimately.
Okay.
Your top 7 or 8 beers, they're just always here.
Sure.
Staples now at this point, per se.
Yeah.
We'll kind of, and then third is it's seasonal. So we know fall, winter, we load up on some dark and malty and heavier beers.
Sure.
Right now, you'll see there's only 1 or 2 shifts back to really light, fruit driven. So you do have a seasonal aspect that's very much driven.
That makes sense.
And then third, it's some recommendation. Someone says, hey, I really want this, or we just throw something together.
Do you?
Yeah.
And how long does that take? Like, I'm ignorant when it comes to making beer.
Yeah, so I mean, a day or 2 for them to build a recipe
Okay.
From idea, and then 7 to 8 hours to actually brew, and then by the time it's ready to drink, 2 to 3 weeks for the most part.
Okay.
There are some beers that they can age for a couple months. There's variables, but on average, 2 to 3 weeks is when a
Okay.
beer is going to be ready.
Yeah.
Naming them is the hardest part.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that would be the fun part.
Yeah.
Some say that.
Yeah.
It's hard. You got to be creative and witty and fun, but politically correct, and also make
Right.
sure no one else has it, and
True.
you're not going to get sued. And there's a lot of variables. In
Oh,
that.
yeah. I never
So
thought
all the
of that.
trademarks and all of that.
Yeah.
Naming's hard,
Yeah.
especially when you do 2-3 new beers every month.
Yeah.
And I think we've done just shy of 300 beers in almost 6 years.
Wow.
So you can imagine you just start throwing names out.
Yeah.
They get a little weird sometimes.
And is 300 beers in the amount of time that you've been open, are you overachieving?
I don't
Or-
know. I would like to. I think we are at or above the average.
I would think so.
And then I would say I don't actually know what everyone else is doing that closely, to be honest.
True.
I know there's a few in town that have really resurged and doing a lot of new cool stuff and some really great beers. Some others are really set on their staples and they sell them and make them excellent. You know, it's very different.
Yeah.
And that's part of, with 10 breweries, we have to niche differently, right? Like we blend beers and we make 2 to 3 new beers a month. Some are more purist and these are the style of beers and these are what we make.
True.
But that provides the consumer different avenues to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because not everyone's going to want to mix 2 or 3 beers in a cup.
Right.
Right.
We love it.
That's true.
But not everyone else does. So,
Yeah.
Right. Right.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I think for any brewery, I would think it starts with the beer, right?
Yep.
You've got to have a good product, or people might come here once to experience the atmosphere and see what it's about. But if the beer's not good or they don't find something there that they like, then they may not come back.
Yeah.
So it's about the beer.
Well, it's good to hear you say that.
Yeah.
It's also scary to hear you say that because it's true and it's the consumer mindset.
Yeah.
It's something we got to focus on because it's hard. At the end of the day, we are making something with a
Yeah.
lot of variables
Yeah.
and we mess up sometimes.
Sure.
But overall, we focus on the beer. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, as we wrap up, any last plug that you want to give to 4x4? And one thing I forgot to ask you, your difference between Galloway and Fremont Hills. They're different establishments. You feel a little bit different when you're in each of them. How are you keeping with the big surprise? We're open in Fremont Hills. How are you keeping the Galloway?
Well, we didn't for a little. It was kind of the stepchild for a while.
Right, yeah.
It was difficult. It took us about a month or two because we kind of got ran over here. We
Sure.
quickly realized, hey, we got to give some love,
Yeah.
pay attention, because we preach cleanliness, attention to detail, and then we weren't doing that
Yeah.
out of the gate,
Yeah.
right? So it's been a huge focus. If you walk in now versus even a month ago, it's night and day different.
Yeah.
We've got it tidied up, looking really clean, sharp. It's wonderful. The difference is that rebrand.
Yeah.
Giving it that feel. It's
was
that
gonna say,
cozy,
yeah.
little darker, more homey, intimate,
Yeah.
unique beer. Potentially quieter. Saturdays still get pretty busy.
Yeah.
Really get going, which
Yeah.
is great. But overall, it's just more tucked away on a hill
Yeah.
in an old metal building.
A little more
that is
intimate.
really cool inside.
Yeah, and the rebranding is happening now, so
It is.
people can be watching. for
You're
that.
already seeing
Okay.
some trickle effects of, again, glassware merchandise, beer types. And then once we really launch that barrel program, it'll kind of all come to fruition.
I got it. Okay.
So we're in the middle
That's
of
awesome.
it right now. Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
That's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
So as we wrap up here, we sell real estate.
Yes.
So we want to ask if you've ever had an interesting real estate experience, or a funny one, or a terrible one that you could just give us a quick snapshot into.
Oh, good question. We have bought a house in Ozarks that was very well priced, very new. Thought it was just great, really first home for us. Got in, loved it until we didn't love it.
Yeah.
Furnace went out, garage door didn't work, all these things. It was a shiny toy that crumbled really quick.
Yeah.
Welcome to home ownership.
yeah.
Right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
what I learned quickly was to pay attention to truly the products, the materials, research the builder if you know the builder.
Yes.
If it's $10,000, $20,000 more, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
Don't always go for the bottom price.
Agree.
So we moved out of there and started buying better,
Yeah.
if that makes
Smarter.
sense. Within
Smarter.
still
Yeah.
our ability
Budget.
funds,
Yeah.
our budget.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton of builders in the area,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yep.
And I think, again, like any industry, 99% of them are probably excellent.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
pay
you-
attention to what you're buying.
That's
Absolutely.
good.
Don't just
That's
look
good
at the-
advice.
That's a great tip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't just
Great
look at the
advice.
shiny siding, because I actually sell siding for my day job.
Oh,
So, yeah. So you never know what's under the siding.
That's right.
No, you don't.
That's right.
Well, Derek, we want to give a big thank you to allowing us to have a road show today.
For
We're
sure.
super
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
And we will be back to drink with you and celebrate your successes here. And
Thank you.
we're just really excited for you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the
for
time
coming
and the invite. So.
You bet.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Authentic podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcasting app.